What's good, everybody? Back once again, and this is something I was like trying. I think I'm gonna get like a little bit ahead of. Maybe this might be a double part. Seeing how things go, but since the game uh, with the Heat and the Nuggets, it pretty much going to come to its conclusion. I feel like it's safe to say that Jokic going back to Denver, it pretty much going to put out the Heat. Um, and if not, then we still think that when they go back to Miami, they'll do it there. Like unless it's some crazy miraculous run by the Heat, this one pretty much seems to be done. So I was like, so because of that, I was like, I feel like we all know what's going to pretty much happen until probably a little bit more close to the draft and things like that. That it's going to be nonstop Jokic praise. Now, granted, he wins the championship. You won. You should get the praise. You're the top dog. I was like, no MVP. You're the winner. You're the best dude playing right now. All that type of stuff. He's going to get that. Except, I was like, I mean, not except or but, more so that it's like it almost seems like it's been a really weird year talking about Jokic. And it's also sort of weird that I like he's one of the few guys in the NBA that I feel like people are not meh but he's polarizing, but it's very weird. Um, like the last couple of years he won the MVP, and I feel like there really wasn't much talk about him as the MVP. Now, granted, he gets to the playoffs, he don't have his full roster, he doesn't do anything. Now everybody's healthy, he took them to the finals, and so that sort of brings up one of the other things that you'll probably hear. I don't think you really hear too many basketball people talk about it. Probably be like the other part, other players of the media, people of the media. I mean, but you might hear some player talk about that. Like he has to pretty much have like a crazy cast of people in order to win. But he was also doing like triple doubles and all this other stuff when he didn't have the whole crew. So then whatever. That's really neither here or there. But I felt like because we haven't really talked about him, and then like when the whole thing about him getting a third MVP and all that hoopla that came about it, which I felt like could have been a good conversation, but nobody really had the conversation. Kind of got tied down in other stuff that I feel like people didn't really use properly as like a discussion tool to talk about things. And then like that poll came out that like everybody would pretty much give the MVP to Jokic over Embiid and Giannis and stuff. And I feel like that pretty much changed the whole thing about Jokic, so that I felt like now we sort of went into an overcorrection of basically blessing and talking about Jokic. And I know there was a lot of stuff in the media of like, oh, they're not really talking about the Nuggets. We're the underdog. We're not giving, any type of thing, and nobody's talking about us and blah 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 blah. When really it's like, I mean, like I was like, okay, so like Jokic versus the Timberwolves, he's going against the Timberwolves, so therefore you're not going to get the same like coverage, in that series unless like the Timberwolves would have been up on Denver somehow. So we could just sort of wave that one by. Nobody really watching that series or whatever like that. Like I watched it, but I also like Anthony Edwards too. But so then go to the next one with Phoenix. I'm like, well, you got KD and Booker, so therefore you're going to get a little bit more. You're going to get a lot more coverage in that series, and I feel like people got to see it, but also Phoenix was depleted. So therefore, like I felt like that was sort of on the media part of being like, oh, Phoenix, that like they're gonna be up and they're all this other stuff. When it's like yeah, it's two dudes versus like seven on the other team. So I always felt like they would have gone back with. I was like with Phoenix, it sort of was a different thing in to see that matchup. I felt like it really all came ahead when it was the Nuggets versus the Lakers, because Lakers star power. LeBron, star power. They're also on this run as well too, and I felt like, and it was sort of the first time I felt like the Nuggets, even though it's like, yes, what we know now is that they got swept, but at that time I felt like the Lakers probably had the best chance of playing Phoenix. I mean, not playing Phoenix, playing Denver, compared to like Phoenix. Uh, just because I'm like, they had a team more so than Phoenix, whatever. And to be honest, like it all just came down to like bad, like timely shot, and then like some people just not showing up in a way that was kind of like, and that just sort of how the cookie crumbles. But the whole thing of like, I mean, like I feel like if you're talking about like, oh, we didn't get the media coverage. That's Denver, and it's like Jokic, and it's like, and like, I was like, it kept being like this whole thing of like the basketball people being like, you see how he plays and all this other stuff. And it's not, and it's like this finals was for us and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, I like, yes, if you're really into basketball, you probably will like Jokic more, or you like the way he played the game. And I was like, I was like, his game is like, I mean, like, I was like, it's gonna sound like a slight the way I was gonna set it up, but I was like, no, I was like, he's a good combination of like modern basketball and also past basketball, where he could go down and he could pound you, and like he just going to just like grunt it out, put it back to you, but he can also step out, shoot threes. I was like, and he could pass, he could facilitate, but he's not just like, like how sometimes they're just like big men that can pass, but the difference of like big men initiating the offense. My sort of thing, it comes in with the whole Jokic thing is, to me, it seems like it's a lot of, I've never seen this before. This is crazy. This has never been done. Things like, like things like that. And that's sort of just like where it's like, it made me think of like when Steph Curry went on his like couple MVP run, and he was like shooting from half court. It was bonkers. He was shooting up, just pulling out. His follow through wasn't even there, but it's a good follow through from him. But for most people, they gotta have the whole thing go through. But he was just chucking up. I was like, they was, and like the whole team to where like they wouldn't even play in the fourth quarter, like that type of amazing, astounding stuff. And to me, and I'm like, so there's that. But then it also made me think of last year when Steph Curry and the Warriors beat the Celtics. And it was like pretty much after that it was just nonstop Steph Curry stuff or whatever like that. Which, like I said, when you're at the top of the mountain and you're the top dog, hey, you get to pray, you get talked about or whatever. But I was like, but I feel like the way they're talking about it is, I'm like, yo, I was like, we've seen that people like Jokic. It just had been to this stretch. But I'm like, you've seen people do stuff like Jokic. And where I'm like, the difference between like him not captivating people's eyes like John Morant dunking, or Giannis. Like Giannis too. I was like Giannis when he was like coming onto the scene, and then he went and hit double MVP. I was like, he's a dude that he could jump from the free throw line without having a jump, really. He's just that big, long, athletic, to where I'm like, spin move, and I was like, and I think it's sort of one of the things too that I'm like, and I'm like, to me that's like Giannis coming through, that was like amazing, like Steph Curry stuff is amazing, and I'm like, yeah, for like to get the masses of people. That's that's the difference between like Jokic and stuff like that. So I don't feel like it's really Jokic's slight. It's just that he doesn't have something that's eye grabbing like all those other players. Like, yes, if you are watching like these games, you got like League Pass and you're, and stuff like that, then and you like the nuances of things. And but I was like, but not even see kind of everybody just be like, oh, this is a casual, you a casual, all this other stuff. But not even that. But I'm just like, does he grab you with anything? Like when Westbrook doing the triple doubles, like, it was cool really that one year because Durant just left and he was by himself and he's carrying and then when he sort of got Paul George and stuff like that, but after that everybody just started seeing those triple doubles like whatever. Westbrook doing triple double, whatever. And I'm like, I get it. He's a big man. He's 7 foot. He can do blah 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 and all this other stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, yeah, but he's really not like it's nothing that's like innovative or I'm not innovative because I was like I guess you could say that he might spring a whole set of big men that's going to be doing this, but like I said, you sort of had big men that was doing something of this, or if you get so like I think it was I think it was the past game 4, or no, it might have been game yeah, not I was like not when they had like they crazy triple double. I think it might have been game 4, but pretty much like going into halftime, Jokic had, I believe, like 15 and like 12 and like 5 or so assists. Bam had like 13, 10. And like 4 assists. He had eerily similar stat lines at the time of the halftime. I'm not talking about at the end of the game, but the halftime. And the amount that they was talking about Jokic, where they were just like, he got a command leader of the game. Look at him, he's almost close to a triple double. Look how he's taking command of the offense and all this other stuff. And I'm like, Bam has the same stats pretty much. Like if you want to say like sometimes it's just about like what you're saying more so than like sometimes like how tone sort of makes what you say a big difference. This is sort of how this was, where I'm like, if you want to say that like Jokic is getting all like like he's setting the pace and stuff like that, then I'd be like, oh, okay, cool, that's a little different than what Bam is sort of doing. But if you just like look at stats and just like going over the stats, I'm like, well, he's doing the same thing. And that's what also would have been getting me over in this, and like especially in this series, is that the way they have talked about Jokic and stuff like that, when I'm like, Bam and Butler are really sort of doing the same thing as Jokic. They're just not, it's just not being executed. Whether that, I'm like it's like Jokic with his 13th assist. And I was like, yeah, because all his dudes are making 8 shots. Miami's dudes ain't making 8 shots. Otherwise, Butler would have double-digit assists. Bam would have double-digit assists. But you only can do so much when they are doing stuff. So I'm like a lot of time when they're like, oh, Jimmy being passed and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, but he's really just he's pulling the defense in and he's throwing them out. And I'm like, that's really no different than what Jokic doing. Jokic is over here like, oh, I'm safe covered. You got a decision made. Y'all come double teaming, pass it out, boom, shot made, and stuff like that. It's really making mislead. But you would think that Jokic is just taking everything, taking over, where it just kind of like, I'm like, it's just like, oh, this is crazy. Never seen nothing like this. And I was like, look, and it's like, it's not that I dislike Jokic. I was like, I respect this game, and I do see why he's really good. I don't like the stands or how the media is doing, and I was like I said earlier, it might be a little overcorrection from how we haven't been talking about it. But it also sort of feels like we've been talking about Jokic quite a lot. And I was like, it just doesn't seem like that in comparison to like Curry, duh, LeBron, duh, KD, duh. You're not gonna get those type, that same type of like stuff. But I'm like he's getting talked about more than really like Joel, who won the MVP, and everybody sort of wanting to take that away now. I was like, I'm surprised nobody made a comparison that this is sort of like Giannis when he won the 2 MVPs, it would get bounced. And then the year he didn't win the MVP, guess what? Championship. It's sort of the same formula. Nobody's talking about it like that. Also, too, I'm like, it really is crazy to me that I'm like, like the stuff they talk about, like Jokic, I'm like, to me, if Giannis didn't get like, he got 2 MVPs and they decided not to give him a third one. I don't understand why we're making this whole crazy thing about Jokic, where it's like he didn't get his third one. And I'm like, yeah, history has been that you really only, that most people get it twice and then they don't get it again. And that's why it was like that was the whole thing of like why it's rare, and the whole uh fight that everybody was, the arguing that everybody was having back and forth is because of that, because I like how many people win 3 back. So pretty much with Giannis, I just feel like they just sort of forgot him, even though it's the same thing. Of I don't feel like he got the crazy amount of praise or whatnot. And there, I'm gonna just come out here and say it. I feel like these sort of have been pointed. I feel like Jokic is really just DeMarcus Cousins with a better PR agent. I was like, big man that could pound you in the inside. When he started shooting 3, that was also something that most people also was like, what? That's crazy. And also, he was a pretty decent passer. He also just didn't have teammates as well. And I feel like if he was not seen as like the angry guy and all this other stuff so much, and he was in Sacramento, he would have probably been looked at a little differently. I think that when he went to New Orleans, there was a chance, and he just tore his Achilles, and that sort of screwed him up in every way. But I think there's a reason why when DeMarcus played with the Nuggets last year, it was also pretty good. And also, who was his coach? Malone. And the Kings canned him pretty much. And I'm like, think about how that would have been. But to me, I was like, I feel like could have been just DeMarcus, just if he was in a better place with a better supporting cast. Also, too, I also think that I'm like, it is also what we would have seen out of somebody like Kevin Love if he wouldn't have joined LeBron. He joined LeBron, he became a lesser player, but he was also being like a double machine constantly. I would like also being a good passer, not just his outlet passes that was like good highlight reel, but he was also a good passer from being at the top of the key and all this other stuff or whatnot. But also, he was with Minnesota Timberwolves, garbage. So it's also like, and I'm like, if he would have had a chance to develop and stay there and shine and got some other people, would some of this stuff also have been out like crap? But I'm like, I was like, yes, like it hasn't been to this level, which that's why you gotta give him praise. But it's not a crazy thing to see or a crazy notion to think of that I'm like, I'm like, all you could do is just see what the contemporaries have been and like versus the past. But I'm like, I'm pretty sure that I'm like a passing big man had been there. It just wasn't allowed to. But yeah, I just think it's a weird amount of praise that we're giving that they've been overdoing for Jokic. That I'm like, I don't feel like that's been the same way with other people, except for maybe Curry, but also unanimous MVP, shot from crazy, and also all the championships. But but no, he still deserves it. He still deserves all the stuff that he's getting. So I'm not gonna bash that or take that away. But it's just one of them things that I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's weird. I didn't hear that at all. And now they're like, can he be the face of the NBA and all this other stuff? And I feel like that I'm gonna do that as a different video because as you could probably see with this take, but I think there's some nuance to be had to this than just being like, he's foreign, and I was like, while that might play a part in it, I don't think that's the end all be all for somebody with that type of game, but also being in some of these spots. But yeah, no, but we'll see how everything goes after they demolish the Heat. Like I said, unless there's like some basketball god like intervention or something like that. But yeah, we'll see how the talk goes and how the level of praise comes from. Especially because I'm like, where all these Jokic fans come from? Where all these Denver fans come from? Y'all haven't been here. Y'all. I was like, there's a lot of y'all that just came off bandwagons to either be like, see, bumping B, or yeah, y'all not giving Jokic no type of play. I feel like it's just like it stands like that more so than actually like, no, I've been rocking with Jokic ever since, because he joined my team or something like that. But anyway, might do a second parter on this one. Like I said, they're gonna be the face of can he be the face of the NBA? We'll see how this all goes. But if you like what I might have said here, maybe that last little bit, let me know about it. If you like the video, thanks. I appreciate it. If not, hey, maybe next time. But until then, peace. I'm out.